So hello class, today we are going to look at how you can style images, and this is going to be a two-part series. So this is part 1. You can also after this look for part 2. If we cannot cover all of them in those two parts, there will be a part 3, but majorly part 3 will be looking at how to create image sliders, and that will be a different case. But here we are going to look at, for example, how you can create rounded images, how you can create for example thumbnails, how you could create different how you can create responsive images. Though responsive, we had covered it in another lecture about responsive. You can look for that tutorial of responsiveness, image responsiveness. You'll find a single image, and at the same time you can look at if it was a whole gallery, how would you do the responsiveness. We had looked at opacity, so we won't be dealing with that. We are going to look at inheritance of a class design, then we look at image filters. Those are quite many, and if time allows, we shall also look at how you can create fading text on images. How you can create fading text on images. We shall also look at how you can write text, how you can write text on images. So we are going to mainly begin with the rounded images, or how to create round images. We have already covered a certain class about border radius. In case you are not aware of it, make sure you find something concerning border radius. You will be able to find what we are going to deal with, because it is important to understand what border radius is. Then you can be able to come and start with us this kind of lecture. So we can start with the rounded images. We could maybe have our H2 here, and we call this rounded images. Then we shall start from there. Majorly here we have, can create, for example, a class. We can call this other images, maybe 1. Then we have an image here. Can call this profile pic, and we check our image, we shall find it here. We could also, so now how do we make this to be a rounded one? We can do that by coming to CSS, and we can choose to target the image itself or the whole class. So if we target the image, we put the image tag there. Then we can say, can limit the width to be 500 pixels, and then the height to be say 300 pixels. So we look at what we have created. If can change a few, can make this a bit of 400. Okay, that is better. So to create those round images, then we would need to say border dash radius. For now we can just apply a small percentage, maybe 10 pixels. Then you will get these curvatures here, like this. Okay, we could go ahead and pick another image, whatever we want to begin with. We can come here and say Let's have those 3 images. This is 2 and this is 3. So we could come here, we shall have those 3 images displayed. Then we could change this to 2, but now we can use percentages. 50%. Want to see what 50% looks like for the second image. You can see it here for 50%. Then we could as well go ahead and make this 3 and change the border radius to 100%, and you will see we are creating, this is oval, whereas this is slightly circular. It's just that it is big, but it would create a perfect circle compared to the one above. And we can go ahead and try to change how this is. What if we made this to be width, the width to be say 50. You can begin with 50 pixels and then the height also 50 pixels. You can see we are already creating how your profile is created. So meaning it is just an empty class, or set that whatever image, when you say upload, that is when they pick your image. That's when they insert the image. Otherwise, we could set an empty class there, and assuming we didn't have, we can just come here and say border, maybe 2 pixels, solid. What color should we have? Gray. Whereas the other side they might use white or something like that. Here we could say gray, and we could also say, let me show you, what if we are dealing with the class alone. Okay. Can pick here, let that one be down, then this is for the class, and this is not needed. So for you, when you say upload, these are the parameters, but then there are parameters already set. What if there is no image, and maybe they could have said that the background of that class should maybe a little white. Now here you still see the image, but you can see the radius there. Could have made it white or whatever. Those are decided by whoever is designing, or whoever was designing Android, for example. And now when you see, that is what you have. If I reduced the border radius, the size here to 1 pixel, then it would be as small as this. So on your phone, if you check, you will find if you have no image, then there is the outline is not visible. They could make it as well as white, or just shade it. Only shading it would make it work like that. So when you click upload, then that is when the image is inserted here, and then you are able to see your image being displayed. If you are cropping, there are certain areas where you stop, and those are the number of pixels they define in the background. Then you just say upload, and that is what you see. So we can look at, for example, thumbnails. You can reduce, for example, another border property to create some bit of thumbnails, but in most cases you are dealing with how big or how wide the document or the image is. Once we are dealing with the documents, we can say rather images, HR here, BR, then we can say H2. I hope it's what we were using, creating thumbnails, and then we can say dot maybe thumb for the class. Then we can have an image there. We could say thumb, we could say image, can just pick the same image. Images profile. I'm not adding on these because this was an entirely different class of attributes when we are starting images. So if we've been looking at them, we don't have to go ahead and do that. So we could come here, maybe pick this, okay, paste it here, can put a comment here, thumbnails. Yeah, good, such that when you are dealing with your code, you know this stops here and then this code started from there, then you check where you might have errors. So thumbnails, border radius, we just want something small, maybe 6 pixels, but we can create a border. That is what we create, give us the feeling of thumbnails, maybe 3 pixels, groove, orange, red. So we can increase slightly the size of our image. So now we can come here and look at the thumbnails down here, as you can see them. If you want, so you usually see these things, for example, when you are dealing with the posters. Nowadays they have advanced, so in some cases they use barcodes for it, but usually letters they still use those stickers that had some images. Those are sizes of thumbnails or passport photos. You could do a lot to this. We could have even changed, for example, what if we said outside? We have looked at borders, so if in case you are wondering why we are changing or doing this and that, you can check out the same tutorial for outside. And we said if we increase the number of pixels, then you will see something coming up, you see, fitting in. Or you could as well add some little space for padding. There is another tutorial about padding that you can check out. Padding, margins, borders, outline, I think all those were combined. Padding, we can maybe let us begin with 3 pixels. We can increase if necessary. So you see, outset, we've created what I would call a nice thumbnail using borders, of which we've already covered. But you could do something extra. You could, for example, come here and say that the dot thumb image, when you hover over the image, what should you see? Box dash shadow, 0 top, 0 bottom. The brush should be 5 pixels. Can add 3 pixels here, no problem. RGB, RGB, we could say that this red is 106. Check out other classes for colors or tutorials that we already have covered. Can have this as 205. So that is a simple color we could create. When we hover over there, you can see a hover effect being displayed. So those are thumbnails. We can look at inheriting a class design, for example, and majorly what happens is that a certain class is inheriting designs from another class. That is what we are going to look at. Can come here, we say HR, BR, then we say H2, creating, you can say image class inheritance. Okay, And we could say we could have this image. I'm going to use maybe 3 images. We could even do it on 2 or whichever. And remember, specificity matters. You can check out a certain tutorial about specificity, or you read about it in anything you would want. We can call this. Remember, there is a class. So let me first show you. We have a class here called inherit. Okay, so we can define its properties. We can say that for inherit image, can begin with this class width, inherit alone, width should be, or max width would be better, should be say 500 pixels. Okay, the width of the class. Then we can come here and say dot inherit. That's what happens when you are doing sometimes live classes. You've got to think exactly how you would want the student to look at it. Whoever is checking out the tutorials, how can they be able to look at whatever you are trying to display? So that way you help learners to know that some of these can be thought about. So under the image on inherit, we could even leave it there, but then okay, let's go and check out how far we've gone. So this is an image, we've created a width. We could also say that if we have that width, then margin 0 auto, such that we can shift our item to the center as big as it is. Now what if we added this class here, a class called sum? Remember, we are on the same page. This class already has its own definitions, like you see them here. Okay, here it has the definitions, it has on hover effects, it has defined how big the image should look like. 150, apply the border of that, apply the radius on it, apply the padding on it. But now we have a class called inherit with a big width of this nature, and we are centering it. If I put a border here, let me remove the thumb first. If we put a border here, okay, on the class, we can say border 1 pixel solid, see green. You will see our border. See, the image is getting out because our border is smaller than the image. You can adjust that by setting max width on the image, such that the image fits. I'm setting it here on the class, but then if you wanted it inside, if you wanted the image inside, you would set the max width of the image to be the same as that of the class. That is okay, of the container that the image is sitting in. We could, for example, say dot inherit image, and then we say max width 500 pixels. This way we are saying do not exceed your class or the containing element. Now you can see it is fitting in. Apart from the height, you can do the same thing to the height. Set the height. Could say margin auto. Height. So whatever height is deemed fit, then that's what it will take. You could set the real parameters you want, just like we've done here. Now, so that was not part of the deal. We shall come back to it. Just wanted to make sure, in case you have the same challenge, you get to know how you can fix that. So we can, now that we know, we can see the green background, rather the green border there, to tell us where our class stops. So we could apply a class called the thumb that we've already designed up here for thumb image. Okay, let's begin with putting thumb, such that we see whether it can pick its own stuff. Now you can see what has happened, because we set height auto, that's why it is able to be reduced like this. Now we did not, you might think it is just a similar image. What if we had a different image here? Image we could have, let me see, image is 1, then it doesn't exist. Let me check the folder of images. Images 1 doesn't exist. No, it doesn't. So we can use another image that exists. We have something like style 1. So why did this not tell us? Because we did not set any word. So you can see we've picked a different image altogether. It does not have to be the same image you had in the other class, but assuming on my page I am creating images that look the same. They have the same design, they have the same everything, width, height, all that stuff. You can see that now whatever elements are here, I also have them here. Now here I could have other words, but the image is the same. Rather, the designs are the same, whereas the image is different. I have simply inherited class design. Why didn't, since this class had its own image, why didn't it come here? It didn't come here. Why? Because of specificity. Specificity tells it that this class has got its own image and it is being worked on as the last element here. So please do not, you are not supposed to display that kind of image. So then the image, this image will now be the one taking over all those areas. So that is class inheritance. There are quite a number of ways that we really can talk about it. Just this one is one of the ways. We can do it on text, we can do it on these images. It's common, but the most important thing is to know if you want, say, images or text to look similar on your web page. You don't have to design each image at the same, each image differently. You can design one image and simply inherit the designs of one class. You take them to that different class that you want worked upon, and then you will have your class or effects taking shape. You have the effects taking shape. So now we are going to look at image filters. We can say HR, BR. We might not cover all of them because there are a number of them, but we are going to cover quite many, such that you get to have an idea of what image filters are. Image filters. Okay. So under image filters, okay, general filters, we are going to look at this. In some cases we are going to look at text and also at an image. How would it look like? Where necessary we shall look at text, and in other cases we shall just look at at images, especially when we start talking about brightness levels and stuff like that. So there is what we call drop shadow as a filter property, rather value. We could, for example, have a class, let's say class called filter. Filter 1. We have an image in here. We could have images. Which images? Okay, we can pick this. When you go to our image, we shall find it there. Here. Then we could also add some text. You can say paragraph drop shadow, such that we see how it works on text. So I could come here and say filters. So I have a class already. I could say maybe filter image if I want to apply it on the image. Then I say filter. You can see the function is there, drop shadow. All those are functions. We are going to look at most of them. What drop shadow say? We can say 3 pixels, 2 pixels, 1 pixel. By now you should be able to tell if not, you can go back to say margins and padding, and you see what you need to know is that we move in the clockwise direction, and if we are given 3 parameters, then we are simply the middle one becomes left and right. If we are given 2, if we are given 4, we have covered that in other tutorials. Maybe I could say dark red for the color. Okay, so when I go back, I'll find that there is a shadow behind my image, something nice. We've covered this also, and we've not used the filter, but we've covered it under box shadow. One we have just used it here on top. You could also say that if that is the image, then I can deal with paragraph. Okay, can leave the drop shadow like that. Maybe color. Okay, that can now go and check our paragraph. How does the paragraph look like? You can see the drop shadow. Maybe we can add on font, the font size of this. We can maybe make it 25 pixels. We are making it a bit bigger, just for you to be able to see the effect of drop shadow. So you can see, you can do the same thing with box shadow. There are other effects that we can deal with on filters. Another one we can look at is a libra, and that can be applied to both text and images. We can say class is bra, and then we come here. We've created all these things under image styling. They are there. Image styling part 2. You can check out that tutorial in case you are watching this. You will find that they are covered there. So filter, we are changing this to brown, and we are looking at bra here. It doesn't have to take a color, it can simply pick the number of pixels required. Maybe you want to create a bra of 3 pixels on the image. Then this is the bra for paragraph, and we just want to create, we say filter as a property, then bra as a property value, and then we put in the contents. So the rest can stay like this. When we go back, this is what we have. Certain things that are less readable, and that is how we can create a bra. We could also try to make images a bit black and white, for example, and that will depend on the amount of, for example, grayscale that you are going to use. You've seen it now, most of your phones can do it. Let me check out these images. We can maybe use image 8. Okay, code pick. I'll use code pick. I can have something like this. Copy, paste here. I have original, can say original. We're talking about black and white, we can say black and white -O for original, then we can say black and white. Do away with text, and then we go to editing, but this can make this different one, code pick. It's going to work on the same thing, code pick. When we go down here, we shall find code pick image there, you can see them. So you could come to this, like the original will remain like that. So let us work on the black and white. We can come here, we say black and white image. When you go to the class of black and white, pick the image and filter it. What property, what value do you want to use? Grayscale. What percentage? 50%. So when we go back, you can see there is a slight difference between this and this, but we can increase the grayscale to 100. That way you will be able, can now see this is the black and white of that. If you have your own photos, you would do the same thing and be able to get out what you want. Another property, I'm going to use these two that you can deal with, is called invert. I'm going to simply change here. You have the two images, okay? So you can choose to invert the other. You can say invert. It also accepts percentage properties. But if you said 50%, how would that look like? That inverts this by 50%. See, this is what we see, meaning it is not traveling to completion. Can make 100%, and this is what we see. We could so that is inverting. One, use black and white. We could try it, for example, on another image here. Can say images, 8. See how it looks like. Too big, so we could say width is let's say 330 pixels. I told you here you might not need them. Can apply the same here. Width equals 330. The height, can increase the height here. The height, can be 250 pixels. Let's see how it looks like. Okay, this one also can change it to image 8. So when we invert it, now you can see how it looks like. This is inverting 100%, and the image would look like that. We can also talk about brightness. There is another function called contrast. There is another function called sepia. All these, saturate, hue, all those are done the same way, by simply saying filter and then what you want. Let me show you maybe one more. Okay, you can look at brightness levels. You can close out this grass. Okay, we can just remove filter and the image will look normal, like the boss there. We can pick the same class here. Let's change it slightly with the 1. In the interest of time, that is why I'm using similar images and stuff like that, but it is okay. What matters is the concept. So we are going to leave the first one as it is, then we pick the second and the third. BW, we can say filter brightness. It could be in percentages or decimals. For example, we can say, we could say that that filter brightness, let it be 50%. We had another class called 1 here, and we can say let the brightness here be maybe 20%. So 20% or 20% would be the same as saying 0.2. Not percent now, just 0.2. 20 divided by 100, that is 0.2. So when we go back to look at our images, the first one is 100% bright, 50%, this is 20%. This kind of brightness does not work with background images. You need to note that if you put a background image on the body section of the page here, you will not use the function of brightness to affect it, because it is going to take almost everything with it. There are other ways, and we have already looked at them using linear gradient and then mixing the colors you would want. So the same applies to contrast, the same will apply to sepia levels. A matter of using sepia and then percentages. Let me show you. I'm going to leave those images the way they are. Instead of this, I will change it to sepia here. Sepia, you can say 150%. Okay. Then let us go and look at how that looks like. This one will be original. Sepia is that 150%. then we can increase this pair also to 300%. Darker than the other one. So as a pair, probably you can use this to create a more black and white image than using grayscale, whatever is easier for you. Now let us look at image flips. You can look at image flips and what they mean or what they represent. We could, for example, we could have come here, we say can say maybe dot image flip. We have an image here, maybe profile, and I could have HR, BR, H2, creating image flips. So I can copy this, and then I say I have those three images, this is one and this is two. So after creating these images, I could also define how big they should be. I could say width to be 400 pixels. Could define their height to be maybe 250, almost creating thumbnails, and then we can see how they look like. I could even push them further. We could work on this by saying 350. So we are going to see how you can flip these images. We can flip them the way they are, or the best thing is to flip them on a hover. That way whoever is looking at your work would simply admire it. We can come here and say image flips. Dot image flip was our first one. We can say as a class, because we've created them smaller, we can first and foremost we say float display inline flex. This is just for, could do it just like we did under gallery, or you could give them different classes. Could come here and say this is 330. This could as well be 320. Challenge is just on the screen size here, but that is okay. We can go ahead and look at what we mean when we say that this is an image flip, or this is like this and that. Flip 1, flip 4, flip 2. Sorry, a very grave mistake. But the good thing, like I said, you see where errors come from. The class was not matching, and that way we couldn't get what we wanted. So we can say that dot image flip 1 on hover, okay, that transform scale. Now there is scale X, Y, and then full scale. We can begin with X. It is a capital letter. It can accept the negative values. So on hover, you flip that direction. This one should be turned upside down. That is what you will see. This is flip on left, flip 1, then this can be flip 2. That this is just scale. So what this is going to do, will combine the effects here and here. So let's go back. With the flip 1, you can see how it changes. It is now as if it is looking the other side. Flip 2 for scale Y, inverted. See? Inverted. The one that will change it to look that side and still invert it is this for scale only, you can see. So this guy being inverted, moving like this, that's what it means. This guy is going to move anti-clockwise. That is why it's like this. See? Sorry, clockwise. Sorry. Move clockwise like this and then faces down because of this invert. That's what you see. Otherwise, it would look like this. But you can see this arm, for example, is this side for the flip. So that is an image flip, and it could be nice. I'm sure if you are a bit stylish, you will find it nice. In case you want to use it. So those are image styles. We can also look at, for example, how you have an image, so how can you send a text on that image? That's what we are. Or how can you write? How can you position text over an image? That's what we are going to look at. We can say, okay, we've been saying HR, BR, H2, positioning text on an image. Positioning text on an image. So, first and foremost, you would have a container. We can say dot p image, p text, or text image, text dash image. Then inside this container, we will have our image. Okay. Let us look at the image we might want or prefer. You can still pick image 8, no problem. So we can say images, then we say image 8 here. By now it will cover everything on our screen, but we shall work on that. Then we can put our image in its own class, for example, and these classes can be defined. We can say dot, maybe left. We could create this as top left. Okay, top left. So that's where we are going to begin with. Then the image here, the word here could be skycodes. Skycodes.com. So this word represents whatever you would want to type. When I come here to look at how we are, this is what we see, a very big image with the word skycode. So we can work on the image size. We can come and say, copy. Down here we could say image writing text on an image. Writing text on an image. Once we finish that, we have our class here, then the image inside there. We are saying the width, assuming the width was to be contained, otherwise it would be okay. We could, for example, say height, that this height could be 400 pixels. How does that look like? See, but we could as well stretch it and say that the width is 100%, so it will cover the page and look like this. No problem, because our words might be invisible a little bit unless we style them. We could add just opacity of around 0.4, such that whatever we put here could be the center of our focus. So we can start, and if what else we can do is that was setting the image, but we could have also set this text image class with position relative. Now when I set position relative, you get to understand that already everything is in place. So we can pick this class here that will work on our text. We say that class, you can put the whole class, we can put the whole text. That is up to you. If you wanted to style the text, then you would probably put it in a paragraph and stuff like that. Quite many ways that I'm mentioning are not the only one. So say position absolute, and we can give it a direction. Top, what should happen to the top? Maybe leave a space of around 5 pixels. Left, leave a space of around 10 pixels. So when we go back, we find our text here. You see, we could also say copy, can paste here, we paste here, we paste here, because now we can use the same image but different classes. We could say that that is top left. We could say top right, then we change this to right. We could call this bottom left, then this can be bottom right, okay. Then we can come here, we copy this, copy, we paste, paste. This is top right, then this is, because we have set the height, that is okay. Otherwise, if you don't set the height, you will see them moving outside your image or your containing element because the height or width was not set. Keep that in mind. This can be bottom left, then this can be bottom right. So the designs, we've made them here. now we are set to, so we are doing the reverse. And as usual, you are going to see here that we are missing quite a few things that we can sort out. Position left, we can say height of this class is also 400 pixels, so the image is exactly fully occupying the image is fully occupying what we have as our as our containing element, and that way we can fix our code the way we want. And it is the way we can fix our code the way we want. We've set our height as 400 pixels. We could also adjust a few things to how our text relates to the image, and so that is what we can do. And we can come here. So we've set the classes bottom left. Now we can change here to bottom, otherwise we would be already, if we leave it at top, then there is now change with this one also needs to change. This is bottom right and not bottom alone, so it should occupy the bottom, and then the right hand side. So so when we go back to our image, we find that they are saying 5%, rather 5 pixels left. So we have all these set like this. Another thing we could do, we could have set that height. We could come here and say height around 400 pixels. So the height of the image is equal to the height of the class that is holding all these things. That way you can create some more space here and even style them differently, because now it has a basis bottom from what. You can increase this and increase this if you like. And that height is also important when you are dealing with, for example, our last part here, where we can have this, okay, and then we say this class can change to center. Okay, so we can pick that class center, saying dot center, and then we set its parameters. One is position, absolute, of course top. This by now should be common, that you can use it to center your items, both vertically and horizontally. 50 pixels. Then we could apply a transformation to this. Where are we now? You can see it here. By now this would also stay the same way, but we can apply a transformation to translate. We are going to do this when we come to animations. A negative transformation, negative 50%. We shall talk about more on that. So that one will be perfectly positioned in the center, and that is how you can, so meaning you can put this text anywhere here, anywhere on this page. You try around with the number of pixels or the number of percentages that you would rather have. So others, in the interest of time, they will strictly be in style 2, styling images part 2. You check them out, there will be interesting stuff there. Thank you.